Can I get a brief volunteer to tell me what, well, right after x first of all. Equals to, I lost it, x cubed. Anyone? Keep going. How much, right? Minus 3x squared. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, can someone be brave and give me f prime of x? Great. So f prime of x equals 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. Great. Okay, hold on a sec, please. Can I get somebody to give me the second derivative? Yeah, go ahead.
6x minus 6.
Right. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I want to solve, once again, to get the local max and the local min, we'll solve the first derivative equal to 0, and then we'll also do the second derivative equal to 0. So I'm going to solve, hopefully, 0 equals 3x squared minus 6x minus 9. Now, before I plug that into the quadratic formula, what should you instantly automatically do when you see this question? Go ahead, Shalina, go ahead. Yes, instantly, okay, to make it as small as possible. So I'm going to call that 0 equals x squared minus 2x minus 3. Now this question, again, you guys are all calculated, so you can factor even the first one in your head, no problem. But now you should be able to see this factors beautifully. How does this factor out to be, please? Great. Okay, so what does x equal? Right, so x equals -1 and x equals 3. Okay, the other thing I didn't warn you about, but I'm going to get you to add to your question right now, is I want you to find for me f of -1, right on, and f of 3. You have 17? Like you guys can read my mind. You can do things I'm not even asking you to do that for me. Good. Okay. How are we feeling with that other than the f part at the end? You good? Yes? Okay. Then, I would like you to be brave, please. I'd like you to solve 0 equals 6x minus 6. 1? Oh, you're fast. Okay, so I'm going to say f of 1. Somebody tell me what f of 1 equals, please. -1. So what I've done here is I've got a few sets of points on my graph. Okay, next we're going to make up a big giant interval chart, which of course is everyone's favorite part of calculus. Reed, would you agree?
No, it's and you don't have to do it at university, so don't prevent that.
Talk to you later, okay? All right. To begin with, we're going to do an interval chart here to make sure life is good for you, okay? So the way we're going to do the interval chart is this. You're going to make a list of all your key points. So the next one I have is f of -1 is 15, and f of 3 is equal to -17. You guys can please do this? Okay. So then what I'm going to do is, just like we did like with asymptotes in grade 11 and 12, we're going to make a nice little interval chart. So my first one's going to be x is less than -1. Can you please do that? And then we're going to do x is equal to -1. -1 is less than x is less than 1. X equals 1. 1 is less than x is less than 3. X equals 3. And x is greater than 3. Okay, are there any questions here on where any of these things came from? So what I did was I just looked at my critical points here, and then I just did the intervals based around them.
But do you have to have the ones that are like -1
Yes.
and 1?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so then I'm going to do f prime of x, f double prime of x, and then f of x. Okay, and I'm going to try and show you the quickest humanly way possible to do this, right? The only way this doesn't work is when funny things happen in your graph, like you have a square or a cube or something like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in my zeros first of all. When will there be a 0 on this graph? Okay, so there's going to be a 0 at the -1. There's going to be a 0 here, and a 0 here. And there should also be a 0 here. Now, the way this always will work for you is that between the two zeros, there's going to be the same values always. Okay, right? So between any sets of zeros you have, this will all be the same sign. Okay, right? So you only need to check one point here, and you can fill in every entry. The same thing, check 1 point above, 1 point below, one on this side, one on this side. So you need to check 5 points here. Okay? So what I'm going to first of all do is I'm going to check for f prime -1, f prime of 3. Oops, not again. Got that backwards. Got that backwards. Not actually reporting this in. Sorry, I am. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll go back to f prime. I'll write the equations out here. What is f prime of x equal again? 3x squared. Okay, so what I'm going to do is very quickly in my head, please go there, guys. I'm going to sub in a 1 here. 3 times 1 is 3. Minus 6 is negative. Minus 9 is negative. So what's going to happen is everywhere inside these zeros, it's going to be minus, minus, minus. When I have a negative f prime of x, what does that mean for my graph? It's a negative f prime of x. Yeah, it's a negative slope, so it'll be going downwards, right? Hopefully, if things are going to work properly, we should have positives on either end here. We'll just check it to make sure. If I do f prime of 4, I don't show your work here. Okay, on your test, all I'm marking is your chart here. 4 squared is 16, times 3 is 48, minus 24 is 24, minus 9 is positive. So that's going to be a plus. Negative 5 squared is 25, 75 plus 30 is a big number, minus 9 is a plus. Just like that. Okay. What is a positive f prime of x is equal to positive? What does that mean? Yeah, so we're moving upwards this way. Okay, now I'm going to use f double prime of x. Okay, and this is going to be a much nicer number because it's just 6x minus 6. If I'm going to do the same thing for this time. What number should I check for f double prime? 0 would work nicely because it's up here. Okay, so that'll work fine. So f prime of 0. 0 minus 6 is a negative, which means that all of these are actually be negative. Okay, so anything between the zeros, you just need to check once. On the other side, hopefully I should get a positive. Let's find out. Let's say I pick 100, okay, because that's above 1. 6 times 100 is 600 minus 6 is a positive, and I get plus, plus, plus. All right, so here we go. I'm going to ask for 5 volunteers to tell me the shape of the graph at each moment. Can someone be brave and do the first one? If I have a positive sloping graph with f double prime of x is negative, what does that part of graph going to look like? Okay, I hear see people doing the hand signals here for this. It will be going upwards, but the graph will be getting more negative. Okay, so it's going to look something like this. Okay, this is just going to be a point, which is fine. Okay. What is now the next one's going to be a negative graph getting more negative. What is a negative graph getting more negative? Like, yeah, so it's going to be sort of downward, sort of like this. If this graph is pointing upwards and the next part is pointing downwards, will that be a max or a min? It'll be a max, right? So just think of like each part is like a parabola. That's what you're thinking there. This one we're going to leave right there because if it has no change of slope, it's going to go straight up and down. Someone else other than the regular group, a negative graph becoming more positive is going to look like what? Very good. Okay. We have that. And a positive graph getting more positive is good. Now, I wanted to do this on a nice simple graph because when you get your test and your assignment, you have to graph something wonky that looks like this. Okay, this could really help you to get the shape of the graph. Okay, for that. Okay, I'm going to talk to Reed after to tell me why I have to do this again. But this is the first time they've seen a nice graph in calculus. Okay, so just bear with me here for a second.
It'll be beautiful, I'm sure.
Yeah, it will be. You know that. Yes. Okay, so the shortcuts, what I did was between the zeros, if you just pick any point between the zeros, and then it's just mental math. Okay, so between, yeah, always between the zeros, always between all the zeros is going to work, right? Okay, it's like you're a negative plus all the way through, so, yeah, yeah. Okay, so as long as it's between the zeros, and again, these ones all work out nicely because, but as soon as you see something that's like a double root or something, check on both sides. Like, you can look here, we got positive, negative, positive, but weird things are possible to happen, which will happen in the next example, in fact. Okay, any other questions here before I continue? Because we're actually going to graph this. This is where you're going to get out your beautiful graph paper. If you do not have beautiful graph paper, Jeff, if you're texting all your friends, please stop. But if you don't have beautiful graph paper, Jeff, you can borrow some off someone and play along here, please. No, you cannot. Not today, my friends. I will never say sketch or graph. I'm going to say graph as slowly and painfully as possible. That's how I'll be worded, okay? Okay, on now, as far as all this joking about the beautiful graphs and all that stuff, okay, here we go. Yes, in your notes and your homework, that's fine. You probably don't need to do the best graphs you've ever seen in your life. The reason I recommend that you do is that good practice makes perfect. On your assignment and your test, you will be losing marks for sloppy graphs, okay? So if you graph like Michael does, you will not get full marks. I'm sorry, that was me, that was uncalled for. Okay, but you know what I mean? But you want to show good form on that for sure, okay? Definitely the assignments will be hideous, as you can imagine. They're going to be a hideous set of graphs you're going to get there. So, so what I'm going to do here is, the nice thing about this graph is that I already know my points. Okay, so I'm going to hit pause here because the rest of the world doesn't need to hear this. All right, I'm just going to complain for a second. Okay, so here we go. Line. Okay, I said I had to go from -1 to 3, so I'm going to go, here you go here. I went up to 20. I have enough to, my graph paper is big, so I can do this, but if you have to count by 5s, that would work probably as well too. Okay, so here we go. Let's draw some points. Is everyone close to having the same thing? Okay. Can I cover a graph for a second? Harry's doing a good job with his graph. That's loads of room. If you can fit 2 pages on one, that's fine. If you're in my grade 9 and 10 class, I tell you to fit 4 graphs on one. So I tell you to fold up your graph paper and do like bump, 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 bump. If you're using the whole page, that's fine as well too. But I got called a tree killer by one of my grade 10s this semester, so I encourage you to save paper formally. Okay. I really don't laugh. It's pathetic. Okay, it's true though. All right, so I'm going to start at 0 and 10, which is right here. I'm going to go to 1 and -1, which is right here. I'm going to go -1 and +15, which is way up here. And then I'm going to do +3 and -17, which is way down here. All right. How we feeling? So far, so good? Okay, now let's connect the dots as the next part. I should give you guys one of these to try, then I'll talk to the fellows at the back here in a second. Actually, we'll interview you guys in a second. Okay, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the first range. It says less than -1, it looks like that. So what I'm going to do, less than -1, I'm going to make it look like that. I don't care if it's close or whatever, as long as it sort of is in that shape, that's fine. Then it says from -1 to +1, the graph is going to be like this. So from -1 to +1, as best I can, I'm going to go downward sort of like that. Okay. Then it says from 1 to 3, and I'm going to make the graph look something like this. What else do you want? And then from bigger than 3, it's going to look like this. That is a fabulous graph. Doesn't that just make you happy? It makes me happy. And that is a graph of f of x. Okay, that's sorry, I've been going too fast today, okay? But you guys should have had 2 days on that interval chart, right, Michael? Is that? Yeah. Now, please be brave and ask if there's any asking that needs to be done. Because you guys are getting one of these yourself. All right, you guys ready for round 2? Simple 2? Yes? Okay, I have to pause the video.